Ooh, what's happening, man? Um, I don't know. I just wanted to shoot the shit, say some stuff. I did the documentation entry last night. Look, I've said this before, but I try to stay consistent with the amount of videos that I do because it helps to get more eyeballs on my stuff. Plus, my brain just kind of does that. It goes that fast. There's that many things that I'm interested in and that many things that I'm studying and researching. Um, but what I've said before is when I talk about certain topics, and I bring up certain things, I know this may sound... So look, if you watch my stuff, then maybe you're open-minded, maybe you're curious, whatever. I'm going to stop censoring the things that I talk about so much because the more other researchers I find, they're not... It's like the last frontier of fear that I'm embodying. And I didn't want to be honest with myself about that. I, would say, oh, it's just self-preservation, which it is, but it's still operating in fear. I think I do a pretty good job at prefacing when I say specific things or making sure to, state that it's theory or that I don't believe that it's fact. It's just something that I'm looking into as a possibility and so on and so forth. But other researchers don't do that. They, and they're older than me. They've been in the game longer than me and stuff like that. So maybe it's that they've been more vindicated. They've been more established, and they've been more revered in their studies, in their research. And there is plenty of physical and contextual evidence and evidentiary and also experience-based evidence that they have been able to produce. Just because it's not on the mainstream or main pages of the resources that we have available to us doesn't mean that it's not there. It is there to find. What I'll say is anytime I start talking about specific topics, this thing happens. And it doesn't just happen, at those times, but I've noticed specifically that it also happens at these times. So it happens, randomly, but it also happens specifically when I talk about certain shit. If I start talking about certain things, this vibrating starts to happen. And I haven't been able to discern whether it's coming from my body or if it's coming from below me. Sometimes it feels like it's coming from me specifically. I can get up and walk around. I can walk around outside, and it continues. It persists. Other times it feels like it is coming from below, but it does reverberate throughout my body. It doesn't always make me sleepy, but when I talk about certain shit, it makes me sleepy. And so I'm watching that video back, or I'm listening to that video back, and I start to hear these pauses, and I start to hear yawning. And as I go into the video, I'm not tired. In fact, I'm excited. And you can see very quickly how it just seems like I become, really, really tired, really sleepy. I'm yawning repeatedly. I actually stopped the video. I finished my notes. I got through my notes, but not before a bunch of yawning, a bunch of pauses where I'm fighting to stay awake. And I'm trying to hold on to the thought that I'm speaking on. That's the most interesting part to me, is that it's not just me getting sleepy, because you can get sleepy or tired or start to fall asleep and retain your train of thought, what you were just speaking about. And I did a decent job, but I noticed that it wasn't just me getting sleepy. It was also that I would, kind of fight it real quick, and then I'd have to try to remember what I was just saying. I'm not saying I know what that is. I'm not saying that it's something metaphysical or something, ultra terrestrial even. But, what is it then? There are, technologies that I've been trying to shine a light on of the nano persuasion that are in all of our bodies. It's not escapable. It's patented. I've posted the patents. I'm not going to, defend that anymore. It's known technology. There are podcasts of the scientists who worked on it and are still working on it, talking about it openly. So, if you wish to view that as conspiracy, I don't know what to do to help you, because that's denial. That is delusion and denial. and fear, you know, and I get that part. I get the fear part because it is very horrifying when you look into the capabilities and the applications of those technologies, the innovations of those technologies. It is daunting. It is very. But not only is that the reason why I look into things, because I want to understand them as best as possible so that I can fight it, but also, what are you going to do about it? You going to cower and you know, dig a hole, stick your head in the sand, or are you going to try to do your best to not give in to it? Whatever that looks like for you. For me, it's understanding it, researching it, and talking about it. For others, it may just be fighting against it. Like, hey, I'm not going to let you punk me out like that. Whatever it is for you, do that. If you don't have that within you, I'm not shaming you. There are some of us that it's a lot like what the military was supposed to be. It's not that, but what it was supposed to be, what it's sold to us as. There are some that are willing to fight, whatever that looks like for them. There are some of us that are willing to fight against, push back, you know, stand strong, be the contrarian, so on. And then there are others that need that help. They need that defense for them, in their name, in their stead. And that's not to be self-congratulatory or anything like that. I'm just saying it in a way that allows you to see that I'm not like looking down on beings that won't snap out of it. I'm not looking down on beings that you know, actively choose to ignore these things. Because once someone starts to show you definitive evidence and you say, well, it still seems like conspiracy to me, that, you know, there's not much more to be done there. It's like someone showing you the sun and you saying, I don't believe in the sun, you know? But that was very interesting to me. I don't know whether I want to redo that video. I don't know what to do with that. I don't like it. It bothers me, but what do I do to, you know, I don't want to drink a bunch of coffee. I don't want to put a bunch of stimulant in my body that late at night. And I don't know that honestly, I have tried that before. Now that I say that out loud, I've tried that before. I've tried drinking coffee for a video and, you know, kind of sacrifice my sleep, my time to try to make the video better. It doesn't matter what I do. That vibrating starts, and if it's the right, you know, frequency of vibration, it makes me sleepy. It makes me sleepy. It makes it hard to retain what I'm saying, even my train of thought. Very frustrating. It started off as embarrassing, but now it's just kind of like infuriating because it seems very intentional. It's definitely not coincidence. I don't believe in coincidence anyway, but it's not synchronicity. It's not coincidence. It's very, very specifically at those times. And I could be talking within a video, and it's not to say that I start talking and then it builds up or anything like that. Once I start talking about specific shit, that happens. Not every single time, but pretty often. You can go back through my videos and you'll see that happen multiple times. I start off fine, and then very abruptly, you know, it's very much like some kind of attack. Anyway, I just wanted to give that some explanation. I'm deciding on what I want to do with that. I don't like the idea of having to redo videos, but I'm already having to redo a good bit of them anyway. I'm just trying to do it organically. I'm not going to go through the whole list and redo shit. But if I happen to retouch on a topic and I get excited and there's new information that I can add to the old information, I would love to do that. And I don't think I'm going to delete videos necessarily. If it's just like, you know, there was too much sleep attack going on, or if I was, you know, digressing too much and talking about dumb shit or personal shit, you know, like in the earlier videos, then I will delete and I'll just replace, you know. It's not necessarily about views as much as it's about the things that I'm talking about and trying to research. And I want them to be clear and concise as much as possible, but I'm not going to be like, you know, rigid academic about it. I like having conversation. You know, it's very organic and natural to me. When I do these videos, I do feel like I'm talking to you. I'm having a conversation with you in a way. You know, you're actually not saying anything in the moment, but many of you talk to me in the comments. So it is a conversation, you know? So I'd like to keep that as organic as possible, and I'm figuring it out. Maybe if I keep strengthening my, my field and doing the things that I'm doing, I'll be able to fight that more. But it is very, very difficult. Vibration is a strong thing. You can lift tons with vibration. You can start fires. You can, boil water. You can do really, really rough, tough shit to the body. I mean, you can shake DNA apart. There's all kinds of applications to it. I'm not saying that to say that, they're going to shake my DNA apart. I think some of us are stronger than others. I think if that was possible, especially those that are talking or doing things, whether it be here or in other realms, I think that they would do that very quickly if need be. So I think it's not possible, just speaking for myself. And so I'm just going to keep persisting. I'm going to keep persisting. I'm going to keep doing it. It's just not going to beat me. That's not within the, codex of choices. Not going to allow it to be. So I mentioned that I'm kind of in this groove of checking out the work of Eve Lorgen. I think, right? Eve Lorgen. Oh, I can't look because I'm on my phone. I'm pretty sure that's the name. I said it in the past in the video before this, but her work is really cool. As usual, I don't agree with everything, and everything that is said, I usually, don't resonate with 100% of it. So there are things that she says that I don't have any experience in and don't really make the most logical sense to me. But this is an experience. It could very well be that everything she says is real within her experience of this place, and everything that I am saying and researching and finding that I resonate with is real for me in this place. That's very possible. There are some things that are physical or application based that are more objective. But even then, there's always that wiggle room. There's always that percentage that's like, okay, well, for this person, it doesn't work like that. There are people that can't go out in public. They have to stay in their houses because they're allergic to the environment, all of it. Some have tried to say that's psychosomatic, but it creates a physical response in their biological material, whether it's internal or exterior. So you can say what you want, but it does something to them to go outside. So the experience of everyone is not the experience of everyone else. But her work is really cool. Some of what she has said has brought light to some of the things that I talked about personally. I don't know how to go deeper into it, and I'm honestly pretty... I'm not sure that I want to A, pay for, but B, open myself up to these consultations that some of these beings do, where they do like regressions or different forms of like trying to figure out, what happened with you. I think it's very dangerous to open your mind and heart to beings that you don't know for stuff like that. And, with a lot of these researchers and beings, you don't know if they're controlled opposition. Controlled opposition, they can sometimes use a mixture of 80-20 as far as information goes. And what I mean by that is 80% truth, 20% agenda, So they can say a whole bunch of shit that is real and resonates with you both personally and logically. But they can still be pushing that 20%, and that's dangerous. So I don't know what to do there, but what I'm referencing is, so I told the story in the first dream show. I'm going to do another one of those soon. If you have any cool dreams or dream-like experiences, whatever that means to you, hit me up. Hit me up. Tell me the story. If it's interesting, then we'll put it on the show. You can say it yourself, or you can pass it along to me in written form, and I'll say it to the best of my ability. I want to do that as a show. I think it's a cool idea, and I think it's going to help us to make sense of some shit because of what I'm about to say. So I told the story on the first show about a situation that happened where I was incarcerated. I was a POW, a prisoner of war, and I hadn't gotten myself out yet. The appeal hadn't been affirmed yet. I'm in a new facility, and this sexual assault happened to me in what I, at the time, viewed as a dream, because it was at night and I was asleep. The more that I talk about it, the more that I realize it wasn't a dream, because it felt very different. It presented very different. I didn't have control of it over it the way that I usually do with most dreams. I'm a lucid dreamer. I started off lucid. Usually I have to notice something. It's kind of like Matrixy, where you have like the woman in the red dress or the two black cats or something like that. Doesn't have to be, it's not usually that specifically. It's just something that snaps me out of it. So that's, I think, going to be different for every being. But usually I have to have that happen, and then I say to myself, oh, this is a dream. As soon as I do that, I have control. I have control of myself. I can do whatever I want for the most part, but I'm not, top-level lucid dreamer where I can, like, world build and do all that Inception shit. That would be fucking cool, but I can't do that yet. I just have control over my own faculties in the dream, and I can think to myself and shit like that, which is, a lot better than just being subject to the dream. So I'm in this facility, and this dream happens, and a sexual assault is what I view it as, a rape, but like of the form of regular sex. It wasn't like a homoerotic thing. It wasn't like a weird like, I got penetrated in the side or some crazy shit. It was a female presenting entity being, looked human. I could see her face, which is not common for me in dreams, especially for those that I have seen or met or know in real life. Usually it's those that I've never seen or met before that I can see their face. And the experience itself is very hard to make sense of. If you want to hear that whole experience, go watch the first Dream Show. The part 1 or episode 1. It'll just say episode 1. What Are Dreams? Episode 1. Or it might be Which Is the Dream. I don't remember what I called it. Episode 1. You'll see it. I think I even made a playlist for it. But there's a few there. So I viewed that as a specific thing. I called it the witch rape dream. I called it the witch rape dream because it felt like though we were having regular intercourse, I had no control. And I'm lucid dreaming, so I should be able to do things, but it was almost like being locked in my consciousness, able to view what's happening and comment on what's happening, but she is in complete control and just kind of like doing these things to me. And again, I'm not going to go into full detail, but on the YouTube, the first episode of the Dream Show, I talk about it in totality. But I started calling it the witch dream because that's the only way that my brain could make sense of it, is that, someone from the outside, within this place somewhere, I thought was doing some form of, magic, using some form of magic or something to that effect, or potentially like technology, but that didn't really make sense because it felt so organic, and it felt like that space was built, by this being to bring me to do this to me. And in the moment, I'm not like screaming help or anything like that. I'm in a position where I haven't had any interaction with females even for a pretty long time other than seeing them. So in the moment, I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. But at the same time, I'm horrified because of the way that this is going. It doesn't present at all like, like my normal perception of reality. Time dilation and all kinds of weird shit was going on. The visuals were weird. All of it. And again, it did not feel like a regular dream for me. I just called it that because I was asleep and it was nighttime. And I think that was intentional on her part. Anyway, so I feel weird not giving the full context, but I don't want to go through this whole dream experience again. Anyway, so Eve Lorgan, her work has to do with something that I've been very skeptical of. Very, very, very skeptical of. Some of her work has to do with, abductions, UFO shit, secret military programs that she calls My Labs. I think that's an acronym. I don't remember what it means, but very, very well researched. I think she's been in that for 30 years. She's been doing this for 30 years. So she has a lot of contextual and physical evidence of the things that she asserts. I've heard a lot about these like programs where they, bring people in for different purposes, and a lot of them are metaphysical, having to do with the mind. So there are some that are brought into these programs and they do like astral projection, or they're brought into a program and like the Men That Stare at Goats. There's a movie about a giant program that happened in the 60s and 70s. They feed them a bunch of LSD and they test their mental capacities for walking through walls, for teleportation, for astral projection, for telekinesis, telepathy, all these things. And it wasn't 100% failure on any of those programs. They had success, even if just a little bit, with each one of those things. And lately there's been a lot of talk by, I'll call them influencers, because they write books and some of them have YouTube channels and all this stuff. They go to conferences, but in totality, I view them as influencers because some of them are not telling the truth. Some of them are LARPing for sure. But after hearing Eve speak, and after seeing that she does give credibility to some of these beings that say that they were involved in these specific like super soldier programs, either she is controlled opposition, meaning she's in some capacity like an intelligence agent or asset, or she has been doing this for 30 years in earnest and has come across people where maybe she's seen or heard something that led her to believe, okay, so maybe this is somewhat real. And listening to her speak about it, along with the context of these programs that they make, they're not fake programs. I think that a lot of what they assert to happen is manipulated and fake in order to, manipulate our perception of reality, but the programs are not fake. And so anyway, I'm listening to this to this episode of her being interviewed, and she starts to talk about these programs, and she talks about how it's not the same as what we all used to view abductions as. Abductions don't have to be physical. And I've been into UFOs since I was a little kid, and I'm in my 30s. I'm in my late 30s now. So I've always viewed it as just that, not necessarily like a UFO coming and getting you and shit like that, but physical. I've always viewed it as that because it's always been kind of shown to me in that way. But she talks about how, there are abductions, there are experiences that are classified as abductions, but they're astral or they're dream based, or missing time, which is not physical or non-physical because the person doesn't remember what happened in between those. There's all kinds of different, avenues for what abduction can mean. And when she mentioned dream or astral, my heart sank because, I think subconsciously maybe I'm more comfortable with just some chick that I may be pissed off in my 20s or something doing some kind of ritual, maybe that makes me more comfortable. I'm not positive, but it makes me to take away even that level of understanding that I built for myself. I'll be honest, I built that for myself to make me feel better. Not consciously, but when I think back on it, that's what I did. I told myself it was a dream. I said it was probably some chick who's upset at me or still like has feelings for me or something like that. Things that made me subconsciously more comfortable, right? those things don't have to be true, and what she is detailing makes more sense. I'm a researcher, and I'm trying to be as logical with the information that I find as possible, and as true to what I'm doing as possible. I'm not going to lie to myself or within my research and work just to make myself feel better. That does make me hugely uncomfortable. The implications of that make me really, really uncomfortable, because essentially what she's saying is that doesn't have to be a human. It doesn't have to be a person. They don't have to have a body. It doesn't have to be, magic, even though that's just a word. Technology, magic, metaphysical, physics, like, we get so caught up in these words, and I think it's a similar thing that I'm doing for myself. It makes us feel more comfortable to put them in these little cubbies so that we can we feel like we understand them better. But in reality, we don't understand shit. So now it's almost taken me back to zero, where I had this predatory experience that in the moment I told myself was positive, it was pleasurable. But like, the more that I think back on it, I didn't have any control. If I wanted to stop, I couldn't. My brain couldn't even catch up. The time dilation is hard to explain, but it was very like all over the place and jarring. And now to add to that comfort that I had, that at least it was a person, at least it was, probably a woman that I had been involved with, even just once, that's been stripped. And now I have no idea what that was. And not only that specific situation, I've detailed other dreams. I'm going to keep doing the dream show, even if it's just me talking, because I have plenty of dreams. I think you all have some too. Scrap said he has one, so I have one person. And I think Void may come around to it, but I'm not positive. Scrap did say that he has one, and he told me about it. It's a good one. But what does that mean? Like, is this happening to me like a lot? I've also mentioned that I don't have access to dream memory very often anymore. So everyone dreams, and scientists will tell you that even if you don't remember dreaming, if you don't have an active memory of what you dreamt that night, you did dream. It's a process for your brain. And I don't put full stock into scientists at any point, but that makes logical sense to me. So I expressed in another dream video that I'm uncomfortable with not having that dream memory. And I've done a whole lot of things to try to get that back. A lot of natural remedies, meditation, exercise, like all these things. What's up, commercial? All these things that I've tried to do to gain that memory back so that I can monitor my dreams. That's essentially what I'm trying to do, is monitor my dreams to make sure that there's not something, strange going on with it. But I've been unsuccessful in that. Some have come back a little bit, but very sporadic, and they fade pretty quickly. But every once in a while, there's something very vivid that does not feel like a dream, and I can remember it for a long period of time. Every time it feels very different from a dream. And so, is that what she is detailing? Is that what this professional researcher, what I am trying to be, is that what she is detailing? Excuse me. And, like I keep saying, I don't have room for fear in my experience anymore. I don't have time for that. I'm sick of how this goes, both personally and what I see. So I'm doing what I view as my part to try to help, by what I promote and by what I put in what I put my energy into, what work I put my energy into. And so as I said, I have to be honest with myself, and at the very least, I think I may try to reach out to her. I'm not in the position to pay her anything. And it's very likely that because of that, I won't be able to have more than at most like a very light email correspondence one way back and forth potentially. But I do think that it's important that I try to figure that out, because do I think I'm a fucking super soldier? No, I don't. I think that there are plenty of people that believe that because they need to. It gives them something to focus on. It makes them feel special, whatever it may be. But I'm also coming around to the fact now that I understand what that implies more, that there are potentially beings that have gone through something. I'm not going to say it's super soldier programs or anything like that, but their minds are being messed with or experimented with. And again, the things that I talk about may seem jarring or they may seem out of left field, but I post my receipts. So if anything that I say or talk about sounds so foreign, go look through my posts. You'll find patents. You'll find U.S. patents of these technologies, of these practices, and of these procedures. They do these things. It's just a matter of if you are looking for the documentation of it. And so it's kind of like having to find a middle ground in not just falling into believing anything that those groups and those beings say, but also not just dismissing all of it because of fear or because you've been, kind of heavily indoctrinated throughout life to reject anything metaphysical or spiritual. You can see a kind of renaissance of beings realizing like, oh, we've been too science-minded. Even scientists, the scientists and researchers and physicists and mathematicians, all, biochemists, they're all talking about this shit very suddenly. And you could view that as a potential like renaissance of agenda, like it's being pushed by intelligence, or it's the whole everyone's waking up stuff, but removing the agenda from it, because there is one to that too. But as I'm listening to this woman talk about these things, I'm like, fuck, dude, that doesn't sound fake anymore. Because if you just listen to one of these, super soldiers or one of these, like, I'll say it again, I feel like most of them are influencers, talk about their experiences, I'm not going to say for sure, oh, they're lying or oh, they're not lying. I use my own intuition. I'm very good at listening to a person speak about things and being able to, at the very least, hearing if they are genuine and sincere with the things that they're saying. I'm not saying I'm 100%, but I'm pretty good with it. So there are many that I've heard talk about these things where I can tell they're just kind of like pulling from, science fiction novels and popular narratives in these circles and so on and so forth. But there are others that like, they're just telling a story from their past. You can at least feel that from them. Does it mean that that is literally what happened? I'm not sure. I think it's possible that they could be playing around with frequency in ways that make you maybe dream specific stuff, and maybe it feels different when that happens. Frequency manipulation is very real. I don't doubt that. That's not something that I'm doubting. It's not something that I'm trying to figure out. I already figured it out. They tell you that they're using it in so many different applications. Geoengineering, bioengineering, mind manipulation, body manipulation. They're using frequency and vibration on all of us all of the time. And some of us are more aware of it than others. Some of us are not aware of it at all. And some of us are too aware of it, and it sadly like drives them to a place that's not as like healthy. But I'm going to keep looking into this woman's work. She also brings up some names of some beings that she has said that, she trusts their work. And so I'll use discernment, hear them out and see what they have to say. But I'm at the very tip of this. This is almost like a realization from today. I don't know what it means yet. I haven't looked that deep into it. But the implications of it are pretty they're uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable. I mean, what the fuck, you know? And the fact that I was in a controlled environment, and in the unit, in the block that I was in, you would like hear a door pop, because they have mechanical doors with switches, so you can pop them from the Eagle's Nest. It's the control room that's somewhere in the center of, like, 3, 4, 5 blocks, so they can see they can see the day room and the doors of each block. So it's a control room sitting in the middle. They can pop the door there and tell you to come out. They used to do that at night a lot. They would pop doors and be like, you got to come out. Some people would say, oh, they're drug testing. Some people would say, oh, it's like they're snitching on somebody. But, my brain tends to like to entertain all possibilities. And it could stand to reason that there's a possibility. Dude, that is the government. We think that there's separations between all this shit. But the reality is that that's not true. It's one big thing that is being presented as all these different things. So it's not a jump, and I'm telling myself this as much as I'm saying it, in disclosure. We tell ourselves that all these things are separate, but the reality is they're not. And so if they wanted some experiment subjects, where's a good place to get that where you don't have any rights? The military and the prison system. The military and the prison system. So, and if you look at how those beings are when they get out of those environments, it's fucked up. They are fucked up, It varies, obviously. There's varying levels of, being able to process it and get past it and get through it and so on and so forth. But, like, some don't get past it. Some don't feel better. And a lot of the time, the longer that they have to stay, the worse. I'm lucky in that I didn't give up and got myself out through the appeals system, the appellate system, in 3 of 10 years sentenced. So I didn't have to do the 10, I only did 3, and a good section of that I kept being shipped around. So I don't know, man. That really has me kind of like feeling weird, feeling uncomfortable. Even just on the level of, like, outside of prison and jail and shit, it doesn't matter where you are is essentially what that implies when I hear her speak of it. Is like, once you are in one of these programs or one of these studies, or once you become one of these individuals that is of interest, you just are. It doesn't matter where you are or where you go. And I've talked about that before, not just in the video from yesterday, but generally, where, there's the potential for, she says this too, like, they are able to identify those of us that have what some call the divine spark, what some call I call it, being a player in this, like, sim, like, those that are the focal point for both, for loosh, for farming, for eating, for all of the kind of negative aspects of this place, but also those are the ones that have the thing. They have it. They have the the opposite of what you would call NPCs or lower consciousnesses. Like, it's like a double-edged sword almost, or like a catch-22. Whether you realize they have this term targeted individual, and I think it's faulty, because in reality, I think that if you are a focal consciousness, if you're one of the focuses, no, I said it right, focal consciousness. If you're a focal consciousness, I'm going to say that for now. you are a targeted individual, whether you know it or not. You can have the best life, in the world, and the reality is you may have that best life so that you never strive for more. You never attempt to shake it off and look around and see how fucked everything is, and that you're just kind of like rolling around in money. That's just as bad as being attacked over and over and over again, struggling, being tortured emotionally, physically even. Those are similar to me. I know one is going to seem like it feels better, but in the grand scheme of things, where this is a puzzle where the goal is you remember your divinity, those are equally bad. One feels worse physically, but those are equally bad. In both situations, it's very difficult for you to shake your head and snap out of it and remember, oh, none of this is cool. I need to figure this out. Equal situations, Yeah, I'm gonna keep looking into that work. It is nice to have more of a definitive answer, because in that video I did say, like, if anyone knows what this is, like, is that witchcraft? Is that a curse? I leaned real hard into the metaphysical stuff, and I guess I shouldn't say metaphysical specifically, because the ET ultra dimensional shit, this is all the same shit. That's my view. That's the same thing where we come up with all these words and we separate things to kind of compartmentalize them and make it seem less daunting. This is all the same shit. Like, all these deities that people worship, and you're told that they're good, but they do all this weird shit where they take, at the very least, your worship, which is still bad, just because they're not actually asking you to kill your firstborn or slit the throat of a goat. It doesn't mean that it's not bad. Your worship is taking your energy. That's louche. They're taking your energy. So even if it feels like, oh, this is a completely positive experience, they're doing so much for me, the reality is they may be giving you some small gifts in order to give pieces of yourself to them. That's what that is. That's what that is. And there are some archetypes that are way more positive than others, and I don't think that they ask for worship. That's why sometimes you'll hear me I'm kind of a stickler when it comes to which title beings give to the adversary. I don't like it when people say Lucifer, because Lucifer doesn't ask anyone for worship, and in reality is not even a personified being. It's an egregore that was created by the Roman Catholic Church, but, it's a similar thing to, did you ask to be born? Right? Did you ask to be born? Well, the egregore of Lucifer also didn't ask to be born. That's based on stories, and those stories are attached to real things, like, you could say Venus, you could say Anana, you can say all Prometheus, all these things, but many of those are similar in that they didn't ask or are not asking to be worshipped. Meanwhile, there are these other energies and deities, that's all they want. In the beginning, they wanted you to sacrifice, animals to them, people to them, babies to them. They wanted your food, they wanted your water, they wanted your honey, they wanted your gold, they wanted everything you had to give them. And throughout time, I think that pissed people the fuck off so much that they kept dialing it back and dialing it back. Okay, well, you don't have to kill your kids, just give me some goats. No goats? All right, you got some rice? I eat rice. No rice. Okay, water. Just pour some water in a bowl. I'll drink. No. Okay, you'll keep praying to me, though. You gotta pray or you'll go to hell. I made it. Believe in hell. Please believe in hell. That's what that kind of comes off as to me, after going through all these different texts of these different civilizations, and then you cross-reference that in the practices of those dogmatic beliefs throughout time, you start to see a trend of very intense extremism at first and very obedient behavior at first. And then as time goes, like I said, they get fed up and they're like, you know what? I'm not fucking painting my door red with blood, homie. Like, I'll pray to you if I gotta, because it does seem like you give me some shit sometimes, but I'm not gonna paint my door with my firstborn kid's blood. You're nuts. I'm not doing that. You know? I think that's the progression that's happened. And that's having to do with the ultra-dimensional being narrative that has... I didn't make that up, but I definitely came up with my version of the narrative and how it's gone thus far. And to come back around to it, is that what that is? Is that an ultra-dimensional being? Kind of like, you know, succubus type interaction? Or what, you know? Like, there's so many possibilities as to what that could be and what that could mean that, you know, I'm one of those that needs to know, that has an urge and a yearning to know and to understand, so that I don't have that lack of understanding. And even just that little bit that I had created for myself, that being taken away and me being back at ground zero, where it's like I have no idea what that was. I just know it was vastly different from a dream, and I don't even believe in those. I don't believe in dreams either. It makes it that much more uncomfortable, you know? I don't know. Good for the research. Not so great for me personally. You know what I mean? It's fucking weird personally. But I don't know if you have any contextual shit to add or something similar, or even just like some perspective on it. I'd love to hear it so I can consider it. I am in the process of trying to figure out how to find a grant, I guess, researcher, someone that can help me with drafting a grant proposal, and then showing me or helping me in shopping it around. I'm hoping to stay away from academia, but you know, I'm not a fucking dick if they're cool. There are cool people in academia too. It's just like anything else. Just the overall institution is lame. Academia as a whole is fucking lame, but there are cool people in there, and so if I can work with some cool people in academia and kind of shift things back in a cool direction, then whatever, that too. But trying to figure out a way to draft and then shop it to venture, you know, angel gifters, I forgot what they call them, or whoever, you know. I'd like to continue this research. I'd like to be able to put as much into it as I am, but the situation is fluctuating, to say the least. And I'd like to be able to find maybe someone to help out, like a research partner or a research assistant, kind of either or really. Be cool if I could find that in a being that just is into this like I am, so I don't have to like be like, oh, I can give you money every now and then. Or, you know, I also don't want to feel like I'm taking advantage of a student, because a lot of the time those end up being students that are unpaid. But if the interest is there, you know, that's not a big deal either. I don't know. If you know anybody that does any of those things or is interested in this type stuff, also hit me up. Or if you are, you know, whatever. I am going to be like fairly sticklerish about it though, because this is really, really important to me. As much as I feel like it's a project for everyone, it is still a project for me, and it is very close to my heart. So I appreciate you hearing me out, and fuck the shameless stuff. There's the Patreon, same name on Patreon. I'm shadow banned, so there's a link in my YouTube description. You can search it on Patreon. I wasn't able to find myself, so the link seems to be the only way to get there. I haven't put other videos up yet because I'm still trying to figure out if it's even worth it to do it, if I'm shadow banned like that. I may just start talking about the shit on here, you know? I'm fucking tired of that. If that does happen, then this is even more of consequence. There's a PayPal where donations are greatly appreciated. Not the same name. Rasta-obsidian. Rasta-obsidian. No, I'm not a Rastafarian anymore. You can find a link for that also in the description on the YouTube. There's an email, gammaauobsidian at gmail.com for inquiries, or like if you have a story or whatever, anything. If you just want to fucking reach out. And I think that's it. I love you, dog. Bye.